everyone. Welcome to the Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver podcast. We're happy you're here. On the podcast, we're certain that you'll relate to the caregiver stories and find comfort with your honorary sisters. Now, before we start, I want to remind you to go to our website, confessionsofareluctantcaregiver.com, and sign up for our newsletter. It's full of useful information that you can immediately use. Now, let's learn more about today's guest.
Good morning, Natalie. How are you today?
Well, good morning, Miss JJ. I am swimming right along.
Swimming. That's fantastic.
Like when you're swimming around, like people are like got arm floaties on, like when you're not making them, like my arm floaties are like half mast.
Oh, okay. So something like a life jacket, but not quite.
Yeah, but arm floaties because they're fun.
Oh, that's true. It's better. It's better. Yeah.
You know what? Today is a great day.
It is a great day.
It's number one, it's my anniversary.
And you remembered.
And I remembered.
Yes.
I couldn't think of a better thing to do on my anniversary than to have our guest today.
And when you said good morning, it is really good morning for her.
Yes.
Because it is, it's probably about 5:45 a.m. For her. So
fresh.
She is very fresh and she was brave to come on and be with us that early. So,
and we're the best in the morning.
I know. So let me tell you about her, so
okay,
she can get to talk because that's really important as a guest.
It does seem like she should talk.
Okay. So here goes. So today we have celebrity. How's that? You're a celebrity, Amy.
She's a celebrity.
We have Amy Bushatz with us today. She is a reporter for the Anchorage Daily News and the founder of the I probably messed that up, Sentinel, a nonprofit startup newsroom in Alaska. She is the host and producer of the Humans Outside podcast, sharing what she loves, being outside and running. But what in the world took her to Alaska? That was the question I had because I don't think she's from Alaska.
I don't think so either.
It was, of course, caregiving. Her husband, Luke, sustained a TBI PTSD during his 2009 deployment as an Army Airborne Ranger, though it would take years to understand its impact on Luke and their family. So in 2016, Amy, Luke, and their two sons, Huck and David, moved to Alaska, sight unseen, to help Luke find healing. Amy says that in that process, they found healing for everybody. And Amy, we are so glad to have you here. We said we feel like we know Amy because her family is featured in the 2023 film by Richard Louis, Unconditional. So we feel like we know you, Amy.
Oh, so good.
Thank you for being here with us.
Amy's like a sister.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Yes, it is bright and early here in Alaska, but you're lucky because I am a morning person. Do not try to talk to me after 8 p.m. And God forbid you try to make me go somewhere after 7 o'clock at night. It is not happening. That is nighttime. We're not going.
I support that. Is that an Alaska thing or just a you thing?
No, that's a me thing. Yeah. That's big time. Okay, so in the wintertime, this is probably going way off track. In the wintertime when it's dark, when it gets dark so early, that is sort of an everyone thing. Like, things don't go as late at night. In the summertime, when it can be light, really like deep twilight all night long, like it doesn't actually get dark, although the sun does set, people are out at midnight going on hikes. They're like living their best life. And even though I am a morning person and you will not catch me trying to go somewhere at 7 o'clock, I have been known to go places at 7 o'clock at night on purpose in the summertime, and or look at my watch or think like, oh, we should make dinner, and realize it's 8 o'clock.
Oh, so wow, I really
because it's so light.
It is so light.
Yeah.
So we went on.
Crazy.
So we went on a cruise, and so basically, you didn't know we were like right next to you. I don't really know where you live because I just feel like Alaska, and we went to Alaska on a cruise, so we clearly were near each other. And I can remember sitting on the cruise ship. We love you, Norwegian. Love them. We were on the cruise ship and we're just sitting there, and we'd gone to a show and we were sitting there, and because all you do is eat. Like it's like you plan for your 2-hour breakfast. You sit there until, it's almost time for lunch, and you just kind of graze. I felt like cattle.
It's a little bit like going to my mother-in-law's house.
God,
Fantastic.
Yes. And so it was like one night I was like, I kind of feel tired. And I was like, holy crap. But I'm like, why am I tired? There's still light outside. It was 10 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm like, it's time to go to Sleepy's house. Because on the East Coast, it was 4 hours behind. And I'm like, I'm over here slowly dying. And so anyway, thank you for Alaska. But we're not here to talk about Alaska, although I really do want to. We're here to talk about your caregiver journey and your experience as a caregiver and kind of how that started. And JJ always jokes that I like to say, start from the beginning. You were born and then skip to the care part. So tell us about you and Luke and how you got married, all kind of that background piece of it, like give us the juicy part. And then what happened?
That's funny because when I go on very long adventures with fairly new friends, well, first of all, I have I need to breathe and such. And really that requires me not talking. So I say to them, so tell me about your life. Start with when you were born. And
yeah. No, we were friends.
And it gets to know people really well because then you know all about their background and things that you would not know if you did not ever ask them that question. It's great. Anyway, okay. I am from California, from Santa Cruz, California, which is the opposite of Alaska, by the way.
That is the opposite. It's warmer.
True.
And my husband is from the farm country in Ohio, which is also the opposite of California. So you can see we're just sort of going down opposite lanes.
I would like the minutes to reflect he does look corn-fed.
He does, yeah, okay. Right? He looks like a chicken farmer, does he not? Like a man who likes to hold a chicken.
I thought more of maybe a baby goat, but I can go chickens. Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So he was, in fact, Chicken King. That's an unofficial title. It was like a 4-H farm program, King of the Chickens, like Chief Chicken. You know what? I don't know the words, but I call him Chicken King. It works out. So yeah, there were a lot of blue ribbons in a bag somewhere that I'm like, why do we have these? Okay. So, so we were both homeschooled and we met through the homeschool program, which had sort of a college-esque program.
Yeah.
That is an entirely separate and dramatic story. So we're not going to tell that story today.
We only have 49 to 52 minutes, but I'm going to want to hear that later.
Only have those minutes. We met in that program. He joined the Army. I moved away to Washington, D.C., where I was working as a news reporter. And then he had a very close friend through school, who was also my close friend there in Washington, D.C. And we reconnected as friends with that guy. And so on and so forth. And here we are. Okay. So that was in 2008.
You fell in love. It was a fairy tale. You lost a shoe. He brought it back. Okay.
He's in the Army. He's doing his Army thing. You're in DC being queen of all the words. And so how long did you guys date before you got married?
Okay. So I convinced him that he really did want to be in a relationship with me.
Yes.
In August of 2007.
Oh.
Okay. And I moved to Washington State in Christmas of 2007 because I was long distance relationships are ridiculous. Also, you have to think about this was the peak internet dating era.
Oh yeah.
And I was I really don't want to do that. I want to know someone in person before I marry them.
Yep.
And we were not friends in college. We knew each other, but I thought he was extremely annoying. And so, yeah. So I even remember there were 33 people in my program. I remember specifically thinking, if I never talk to this guy again, that's fine.
Oh, I love that. That makes me feel
good. Weird, right? So I moved out to Washington State to be in proximity in December of 2007. And then we got married in June of 2008. And we had our first son in April of 2009 because he was in the military and we knew he was going to deploy. And there's something weird that happens to your brain when someone's going to deploy, which is I should immediately have a small child to take care of while this person is gone.
I love that.
I don't know. It's crazy. People do this. It's not just me. It has no basis in logic whatsoever. Except to say that there's also a thought in the back of your head, whether you want to say it or not, that if this person doesn't come home, you have a replacement in the form of a child.
I need a mini you.
Again, it's not super logical because if your husband was to deploy
that's fair
and didn't come home, would you really want a small child that you now have to raise and be tied to? I mean, just being quite frank, for the rest of your life, because this person is now gone and now you can't fully move on ever because you have their child. Is that really what you want? Anyway, like I said, it's just an emotional decision. Logic has no basis, no reality. Okay.
Out the door.
So, that's how we met. That's how we got married. And our first son was born in 2009. He deployed 6 weeks after our son was born, 5 weeks. And then, was in what in the military we call a very kinetic deployment, which is words for lots of stuff happened and many people got hurt and died. And then he was sent home in end of December of 2009, again, around just actually Christmas Day, to take over the unit so the unit was still deployed. There's a position called the rear detachment commander, and that person is kind of in charge of the wounded people or anyone who stayed home or helping work through casualty stuff with the wives and the widows and the families. Okay. It's a very high pressure job because you want to be, you train to be overseas, and now you're not. And when you take over that position halfway through a long deployment, such as was the thing that people did at that time, I'm not sure this is really done quite as much anymore because deployments aren't typically a year or 15 months. They're much shorter. Because of that, he ended up taking over this position and really being the point person with all of the wives and moms and kiddos of people who had died. At this point, over 20 men in his unit had died, for the people who had died in his presence or with him on that deployment. So if you can imagine having someone literally die in your arms and then coming home, and now you have to work with his mom and his wife and his son. And, this was a obviously very emotionally high pressured environment, but because he had also been injured during this deployment, he had been concussed multiple times. Thus he has a traumatic brain injury. He was in a very high, like if you, a recipe for post-traumatic stress, right? Like let's, mix and shake and now you have it. Okay. So he was in that. And then he came immediately home and did not have an opportunity, because that's the environment we were in, to even address the fact that he was injured, much less process any of this. And so after everybody else came back in 2010 from that deployment, we were moved by the military to the next thing. And again, we didn't really have the time or bandwidth to process that. He was in a school environment, and it was supposed to be a situation where you can. And I remember the commander at that school saying, "This is a chance to take a knee." Yeah. But I think the knee that we took was really as we were burying our problems in the dirt. Like, let's just kneel down here and just chuck some dirt over these so we don't have to look at them. But also, not even that intentional. We just simply did not have the tools to understand what was happening or process it or talk about it or understand that it might have happened. I mean, any of those things. And so we were at Fort Benning, Georgia, which is now called Fort Moore. They just changed the name. And just not dealing with stuff and not even knowing that we had stuff to deal with, frankly, because I don't know if you can tell this, guys, but I'm like a pretty aggressive person. And so I just want to get it done. Yeah. Like if there's something to do, let's do it. Right. Let's talk about it. Let's take care of it. And I've become more like that over time, I think, probably because of this journey, but I didn't even recognize that there was something to take care of. And I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm not sure he did either. So we went through that, and then we moved to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, because after you're done with that school, about 8 months of that, they send you to the next place. And Fort Campbell, Kentucky is not, shall we say, known for being relaxed. It's a very high operation tempo spot. So the guys and women deploy a lot. They are on constant rotations, especially at that time in 2010, going overseas, going to Afghanistan, going to Iraq over and over and over again. And so it's the home of the 101st Airborne. If you remember the show or story of Band of Brothers deploying to Europe, that is the unit. That's their unit. He was in their unit. And so they have this high pressure environment with lots of deployments, plus like this lineage that they think they have to like live up to. And so he was immediately in units that did not have the space to talk about that, or did not give the time to talk about that, and did not give the training calendar to even go get appointments. If you felt like you were having a hard time, there was no space to say, I need to take a beat and figure this out, because that's not the environment. I mean, you're serving in the Army. We have stuff to do. Okay. And so he began to understand, and I began to understand that there was something off, but I didn't have the words to understand what it was. So what that looked like was he would forget stuff. He would go to work and he had a bag of like workout gear that he would like set on the back of his car and then drive away. And he lost, I kid you not, 2 bags of stuff this way with his wallet in it. Oh my gosh. At least once, where, he like this expensive PT gear and this expensive bag and his uniform, it's all just gone because he stuck it on the back. So, you could make this mistake. Anyone can make this mistake. Let's not talk about how many times I have lost or put my phone on the back of my car. Well, just the one time where it flew off the back, that taught me never to do that again. But I have definitely driven around with it back there before. And okay, so this happens. Like, this can happen to anyone, right?
Yeah.
But for him, it was a symptomatic pattern of forgetfulness. Then he started to have chest pain, and I begging him to go to the emergency room because
how old is he?
He was 29.
Yeah, I was like, okay, he's young. Okay,
yeah.
Yeah.
So he's so tired from mowing the lawn on the riding lawnmower that he has to lay on the couch for 3 hours. And I'm like, I don't really think this is a good sign, and he just categorically would not go to the emergency room.
Yeah.
So literally a week before the deployment that they were supposed to go on, he finally has an appointment with the cardiologist on base. Now, we had been at a party with the entire unit at the boss's house, and we were sitting around a bonfire, and the brigade doctor was there. So this is the doctor in charge of the doctors in the brigade. All of the other people under him are not actually doctors. They're physician's assistants or medics. They're qualified, but they're also processing a lot of people. And so when Luke had said, my chest hurts, they're like, is it after you eat a lot of food, knucklehead? And he was like, yeah, also that. And so they prescribed him heartburn medication for his chest pain. Okay.
Right.
So we're sitting there with the brigade doctor, and I'm telling him hey, Luke's got this chest pain, and they prescribed him Trilosec, and he won't go to the emergency room. And I'm starting to get a little emotional. I have this memory of seeing this guy's face and this in the firelight. Right. And realizing that he was concerned. And so within a couple of days, Luke's butt was at the Army hospital getting an EKG, which was not normal.
Yeah.
And then the next week he was with me at a cardiology center in Nashville. So outside of the Army hospital system, getting a catheter to see what was going on up there.
Yeah.
And that catheter was the week before deployment. And what it found was he had major blockages in his arteries, which, oh, by the way, we now know studies show that heart conditions, stuff like that, can be tied to traumatic brain injury. There are ties between those two things.
Didn't know that, Amy.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Wow.
And the next week, I am sitting in the waiting room watching footage of his unit getting put on airplanes to deploy. And he is in surgery getting stents in his heart and being put on blood thinners overnight in the ICU, just like you do after you have major heart surgery like that, And so he did not get to deploy. And this really triggered a total meltdown because he was really holding himself together to deploy. And when he didn't get to do that, he completely spiraled out of control.
Wow.
He was pursuing addictive behavior, so he was drinking, he was having an affair, he was just out there trying to self-medicate in any way that he possibly could.
Wow.
And in the process becoming suicidal and really destroying our relationship and our family. And I'm back here totally clueless. I can see this person is struggling, but they say they're fine. We go to church on Sunday, so it must be fine. And you have this sense that something is off and can't put your finger on it. And then, so about a year later, it all fell apart because I found emails and I was like, what's going on? And he became even more suicidal and he became even more lying. And we just had to figure out how to recover, if you can even recover from that.
Yeah.
And so that looked like a year of pursuing Band-Aids, right? Going to 12-step meetings and getting counseling and really having to journey to a point that is when they say rock bottom, there you are. There's really no way to describe that other than when you get there, it. So, and
right.
For him, it looked like a moment where I'm almost like a very out of body experience. I'm standing in our bedroom and I am looking at this guy sitting on the floor of my room, literally in a ball, crying and telling me he doesn't say, I'm now getting emotional again. He doesn't know why he came back. He doesn't know why he's alive. And I realized this guy's suicidal. I never would have thought that, but he definitely was in that moment. And so I did the thing caregivers do. Right. I said, okay, we're going to deal with this now. And so I called a couple of our close friends from church who had been his accountability partners, apparently not very consistent or not very effective ones up to that point, and asked them to come over and get him because he needed to not be in my house for the sake of me. And because I also needed to take care of myself, which is something I learned in the 12-step program over that year, to have boundaries and how to do that. And so they came over. I also gave them his weapons. Get these out of my house. We had a shotgun.
Yeah.
Nothing, we didn't have any handguns or anything like that, but whatever we had, I gave them to them and asked them to lock them up and put them far away for a while. And they took him out. I think at that point he had been drinking. So they took him out to, sober up too. And,
Wow.
and he stayed with a friend for about a week and a half, maybe a couple weeks, would come over during the day to see our kids. And I made an ultimatum, really, but let's call that a boundary, right? They're the same thing. And my boundary was, you're going to get help, whatever that looks like, or I'm going to leave. We're out. I'm moving back to Washington State, which I really liked with the kids. We'll have a plan. And he decided that the help he needed was not going to be something that he was able to get while staying in the active duty Army.
Mm.
And so this was in 2015. And we made a decision that we would spend the next year working to get out and making a plan of what he was going to do next, and help him get help. And I said, if he would respect my boundary of never, ever, ever, ever doing, cheating on me, essentially, again, that I would stay unless I decided to change my mind, and then I would go. That's my boundary. I get to change my mind. So
I get to change my mind. Now, Amy, during all this time, because I want to make sure, I know what Luke's going through, but you, I hear and I see you, with the tears in your eyes. I see that, and you've set your boundaries, but you also you now have 2 boys that you're responsible for. You're working. You were an editor for a large magazine, a military magazine. What is going on with you? Where are you?
Yeah. So I was running and I was doing CrossFit, and I was really using those 2 physical movements to work through this. It was hard, right? I was betrayed. I felt betrayed. I was confused about why this was happening to me, but I also understood that I was able to come to a place where I understood that this is a symptom of an injury, not a symptom of who my husband is as a person.
Yeah.
And I was in therapy quite a lot, right? I refused to go to therapy with him anymore at that point, because that had just been him sitting there lying to me for a year. What a waste of time, right? I hate it when people waste my time. I knew that I could leave if I wanted to. But I decided that I've got 2 kids over here who, if their dad is healthy, right? If he is at a place where he is pursuing health and pursuing treatment and working on it, they deserve to have a dad who's doing that. And I could handle working through it. And so that is why I decided to stay, because I wanted them to have the opportunity to be with their dad. But I also wanted me to have the opportunity to heal, because I come from a family that is just a hot mess express. So many people who are in relationships with addicts come from relationships where they were, either they've been in one before or their family modeled that.
Yeah.
And my family modeled that. And so, of course, I was in a relationship with somebody who was likely to do that. And if I wasn't going to work on myself and fix my own problems, it was just going to wash, rinse, repeat. I don't have time for that. So I got to break some chains over here,
Yeah.
So I was really pursuing healing for myself.
Right.
Now, if you've watched the documentary or you're talking to me right now, you can see I'm a pretty intense kind of person.
Right.
I have a very strong personality. I know that I am not for everyone. I'm okay with that now. But I've gotten okay with that, right? We didn't wake up one day it's okay if people hate me. No, this was a journey to be I'm good with being a strong personality. But I will tell you right now, being a strong personality helps with caregiving.
It does.
Because I know I can set my boundary and stick with it.
Me too.
And I can power through stuff and then go talk to my therapist about it. Actually, I have an appointment with her tomorrow. I'm pretty excited. Pretty stoked. Yeah, I know. It's like having a very close friend and you never talk about her. It's great.
I love therapy. I love therapy because it's all about me.
Yeah. Right.
No. It didn't even matter what her name is. I was like, hey, bestie, you won't believe what happened. And so, and they hold, and you know what, here's the thing, because we're huge advocates for counseling, and people are going to say, and, you know, and we've talked about this, I've talked about this with another friend. It's like, most caregivers say, I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. And if you don't make time, then, you know, it's kind of like, if you don't heal from what happened to you in the past, you're going to bleed all over everybody. Right. And so if you don't make time for yourself, you're going to have a real problem.
And also, let's be honest, it's expensive. Therapy is expensive. Having access to that is a matter of privilege. There are free programs. So if you are a U.S. based military disabled veteran spouse, okay, in the United States, you can register for the Soldiers Angels Women of Valor program, and they provide free access to MD Live, where you can receive free mental health care via telehealth.
Wow.
Now, telehealth, free mental health care, not everyone's jam. I like it. Or rather, I like mental health care. I don't love telehealth. I like to be in person. But if that was the option I had, I would use it.
Yeah.
So that is a resource. And there are other resources like that. The Wounded Warrior Project provides mental health care to veterans. So there are many, many options specific to the veteran caregiver community. You just have to know where to look. You also have to want to. You have to want to find them. You have to create that bandwidth, because just like you're saying, if you're not willing to create the space, you're like, time is a vacuum. It will be used. Like, it will just dissipate. So you have to figure out how to carve out some for yourself. And I know that you can. You can. You have to do it, though. It's not going to magically be done. And that is true if you are taking care of many people at the same time and have an incredibly packed life. And it is true if you're taking care of one guy who's pretty self-sufficient. I talked to 2 caregivers yesterday. Very different ladies, different situations. Both of them had just gone to this retreat program that I was talking to them about for a story I was writing. One of them has a spouse a lot like mine, who, by the way, is doing really well now and is completely self-sufficient in almost every way until he's not. And then you're there to provide care. That's what we do. Right. So for him, that can look like he actually has chronic headaches and migraines. And so I have to pay attention to, if he has a headache today, how are we going to deal with that? And I have to pay enough attention to see the signs that he has a headache, which can look like being irritable, or it can look like, gosh, I just can't remember anything today. Like, there are days that he's like he cannot remember people's names at all. Still is great at his military job, by the way. He's still in the National Guard here. But the little things on the side that are not a part of your everyday pattern, he has trouble with. Then there are days he's great and he's like, he doesn't need me at all. You know, and I'm like, sayonara, sucker, and I go on a trip or something, and he holds it all together. Okay, that's my journey. One of these ladies I talked to yesterday, same thing, right? Her husband is very similar to that. She helps him remember to take his medication. That's really the most of the care, consistent care she does. The next lady I talked to has 6 kids at home, 4 of which are not her biological children. They're nieces and nephews. All of the children are extremely high need. And she takes care of her mother, who has had 14 heart surgeries in the last 2 years. And her husband is very, very disabled. Okay. Both of these people found a way to go to this overnight retreat for a few days in Colorado. Okay. It is hard to get away, no matter who you are. And it is reasonably harder for some people than others. It can be done. And we are talking, when we talk about therapy or going to the gym, which is my other type of therapy, or going for a run, we are talking about an hour and a half. You know, let's use 15-minute buffer to get there and back. Okay. We're talking about an hour and a half of your time, one day a week, several days a week, to take care of yourself and invest in yourself so that you can turn around and do that investing in others. Because I'll tell you right now, if you don't take care of you, it's all going to fall apart. And we know that. We say it all the time, but it is so hard to act against it.
America is the land of the free because of the brave. Norwegian Cruise Line never takes that for granted and is proud to support our troops with a discount program for members of the U.S. military, veterans, reservists, and their spouses. Service members get 10% off their cruise fare, where they'll be met with exclusive onboard experiences as a token of appreciation. NCL's Military Appreciation Program was created for veterans by veterans. Learn more about their military discount and program at ncl.com/military. That's ncl.com/military.
So, Amy, you guys, I love this. You sight unseen. You said Alaska, but now when I watch Unconditional, like I see just what you said, there are days when you care. And even I noticed your boys saw that Luke was in that video, like Dad has a headache but you went to Alaska. Tell me about caregiving now, what that looks for you, but what has getting away from it all and changing your life done?
Yeah. So when we made the decision to move here, first of all, I was like, there's no way in hell that I can stay at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Get me out of here. Like the place, the nature, the location itself, great.
Yeah.
People love Clarksville, Tennessee. It is so beautiful there. Awesome. Couldn't stay there. Not with the I personally needed to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And so we knew we weren't going to stay there. And we decided we would pick somewhere that jived with who we were, but also what we wanted to prioritize. And so given the opportunity to move anywhere, my job was mobile. We decided international wasn't going to work out because my job is mobile, but I also have time zone concerns. And that really we could try Alaska because we had really loved Washington State. Mm-hmm. And Alaska is like Washington State plus. Okay.
Like
Make this
steroids.
like, it's like on steroids, right? So all of the nature you liked about Washington State, we have that. We have less traffic. Yes, it's colder. There are other, there's other stuff there. But if you like the vibe, you'll like it here. So we moved up here sight unseen. And when we did that, we found people say, oh, I'm going to move away and everything will be better. Well, that's not true because your problems follow you, right? Mm-hmm. But there is something to be said for a dramatic reset where you are forced to start over and re-examine yourself, as long as you know that you also have to, that your problems will follow you and you're still going to have to address those.
Sure.
And so coming up here gave us the space to have that like actual physical reset and start over in many, many ways. But it also helped us reprioritize what's important to us.
Yeah.
And for Luke, I knew that spending time outside helped him and have that space to heal. And what I found when we got here is that the same was true for me, although I did not anticipate that. And so in 2016, we moved here. Mm-hmm. He's like living his best life. I had much more challenge. In the moment, I didn't know that I was having a challenge with the change. Looking back, I can see that was true. And so in May of the following year, it was almost like I woke up a little bit over the wintertime, like, okay, I'm feeling better now, like ready to have a party. And it was cold in Alaska and there was no party. I've since learned you can make your own party in the wintertime. I just did not know that. So in May of that year, I was like, okay, Alaska, let's do this thing. Let's have some summertime. And there was this day, it was just pouring rain. And I was like, what the, like, what is happening here? Like, why am I wearing a sweatshirt and a hat? And where is the sunshine? And I realized that I was going to have to change me to be here, that I couldn't just keep on, doing my Netflix and gym thing and think that I was going to get out of Alaska what I thought I was going to get out of it by just magically appearing here. And so I set out to kind of create a new habit going outside, which is now the subject of this podcast I have, Humans Outside. And I, since that point, have been going outside for at least 20 consecutive minutes every single day, no matter the weather, and doing that for my own health and caregiving journey, but also to discover what are the benefits of that, because I'm a journalist and that's what I do. I investigate stuff. And so I'm at like something like 2,225 days in a row of going outside every single day. I've gone outside in windstorms with like gusts at 100. I've gone outside on incredibly gorgeous days. I've done so many countless new things because of this. I am outside in the wintertime where your nose hairs are freezing. I am outside running. I go to a running group in the wintertime on Monday evenings that they run if it doesn't matter what's happening. Okay. So 60-mile-an-hour winds with free sand blasting to your face, like low cost microdermabrasion. I'm out there. best day of your life, like the most gorgeous morning you can imagine. I'm out there watching the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights from my hot tub. I am there. Okay. I'm there no matter what is happening.
Awesome.
And that practice, that self-care practice really is what that is, has fundamentally changed how I see the world because of all the benefits that you find from spending time in a space that allows you to reconnect with your own self, which is really what nature does.
I totally agree with that. It really, I will say, when we went to Alaska and being outside, it's different than East Coast, West Coast, whatever, being in the mountains. We grew up in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. And so we were outside Knoxville. You were in Clarksville. We don't know anything past Knoxville because that's where UT's at. And so we're like, is there anything past there besides some shopping? And so I get it. And, I think that's so important because it's also definitely quiet.
Yeah.
Like you can hear yourself. And for people who aren't comfortable enough to get quiet, to really hear, that is getting uncomfortable.
I think Alaska forces that, but I think that you can find that anywhere. And I know that because I've found that in other places. You might have to look a little harder. You can find that experience of being outside and taking that beat in nature in Central Park in New York City.
100%. 100%.
Like it is not, I don't want people to hear me and think, oh, I'm not in Alaska, I can't do that.
Right.
Because I really strongly believe that nature is wherever you are. And it is a matter of intention and focus.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, yes, absolutely. Alaska creates lots of spots to do that, for sure. Some places, rural places, are more like that than others. But you can find that literally anywhere. Literally anywhere.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you have to look for it. Because I can tell you, whether it was walking in Central Park last year, or we would go over to this park off 57th. And it was the most perfect place. It's one of my favorite places to go to in New York City. And it's this teeny tiny little park off 57th that looks over the water to Roosevelt Island. And, I think it's really good advice. So I do want to say, and this is different because I think this is important. Where you have people who have caregiving journeys that end. And typically the end it ends when somebody passes. Yeah. And so we've been caregiving and we don't even realize it. And I didn't even think about this, but I mean, I didn't even see myself as a caregiver for Jason until he got cancer, not when he became disabled. And so I've been taking care of him. I'm his wife, right? But I really was a caregiver for him since when he was disabled in 2015. Yeah. And never saw myself as that. And that's one of the biggest problems, that caregivers don't see themselves as caregivers. They don't see the dual role that they're playing. But you're in it for the long haul. I don't know that your care ever ends. I think it feels like intermittent care.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's every day, but, right. But, I agree. Like the end will be the end, the end. Maybe this is a coping mechanism, but, and I've told my husband this, that I'm always prepared for that. I feel like I'm prepared for that because of his heart condition, right. Which is, I mean, he has these stents and he's doing great. And his cardiologist says he's fine. But that guy also told me, the Army doctor told me that Luke was one of his patients that he expected to get a phone call someday that he just dropped dead. And like on a run or something, right? Because it was such a strange, the fact that he was 29 and had this and was otherwise, it's strapping young man, right? And so I, in a lot of ways, I've thought about that. Like, what would that look like? I'm not sure how comfortable my husband is that that I have a plan, but I'm a planner, right? And so that makes me feel better that I've thought about that. I think that's just kind of reality of caregiving in a lot of ways, is that you do think about that. Yeah. As far as intermittent goes, he has challenges every day, and here's the other thing, guys. When I think about it as being intermittent, I get off my game. And so then I'm surprised by something that is like, oh yeah, okay, well, that's a TBI thing. And I don't know why I didn't see that coming. Well, it's because I let down my guard and I was off my game for a day.
Wow.
And so I'll give you an example. We have this, this strapping young man of mine. We have this husband of mine. We have this patio area that he really wanted to fix. And he's like, I'm going to put pavers onto this patio. I want to flatten it and put pavers on it. So he had these guys who were constructing a deck for us to flatten this sucker. Okay, fine. He's like, I'm going to put pavers on it. Sure. Now you and I and everyone else in the land know what pavers look like. Okay. It's like
yes.
I don't even need to describe it. We know what it is. He did not know what it is. And so I go outside. He's like, I'm done. I'm like, come see it. And I come outside and he literally has like stepping stones. So paver pieces like as stepping stones into the middle of this dirt area, literally leading to nothing. It's just dirt and like 6 stones into the middle. Okay. And I was like, I did not handle it well, guys. I did not.
And that's okay.
Cool. I was surprised. Okay. And I was like, what? So I was like, this is what? You're done? And he got really mad at me. It's like, if you had wanted something specific, you should have told me. TBI. Okay. Because he struggles with understanding the steps to do tasks that are not things that he's familiar with. So like, it's this getting from point A to point Z and all the points in between. And he just sort of wanders around if he doesn't know the specific steps. So that was really an important lesson, that was something that we knew he struggled with, but had never had quite as dramatic an example. And now when it's time to do something that is ambiguous like that, we talk about it and I'm go step by step. And it sounds like babysitting when I say that, but really it's a partnership where I'm like, okay, so what are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to cut this down. Okay. Well, what's the point of that? Well, I'm working on this project. Okay. So, do you know how to cut it down? Like,
do you know how to use a saw?
Have we Googled that?
Yeah, Jason watches a lot of YouTube.
And that's great because YouTube is our tool. Yeah. So here's the thing, like we have the tools, we have the technology, we have the apps, we have the calendars, we have the YouTube, we just have to use them. And when I fall off my game, I forget about all those things, forget about them all.
I think that's part of caregiving though, too, is that you're accommodating, you're constantly learning and adjusting. You're adjusting to the person's needs. And if you think about it, you adjust while trying to maintain yourself and keep yourself balanced. Like it's interesting if you think about it, you're constantly moving yet trying to stay balanced.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what caregiving is. I'm trying to stay, my equilibrium is I'm trying to keep my little nervous system happy and stable so that I can move up and down with them. And that's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I do a lot of thinking about somatic, which is nervous system, somatic experience. Because of my podcast, I've had the opportunity to talk to just all sorts of experts, right? So one of these people, her name's Sarah Histan. She's a mental health and foreign physical trainer, and she talks about nervous system stuff. And thinking about that really has helped me quite a lot because now I understand my fight or flight mode, which is just flight, by the way, like get me out of here.
Yeah.
And I understand what I do when I'm under pressure. And a lot of that is because I spend so much time outside. So Sarah has helped me put words to this, but I know how I react in extreme pressure moments because I'm outside experiencing them. And then that translates to coming inside where I can be like, okay, I can see that I am sort of hoarding my time, or because when I'm under stress, I hoard stuff. Okay. So I live in a scarcity mindset. So I can see that I'm acting in a scarcity mindset here in my inside life with my spouse, with my kids. It looks like hoarding my time. I don't have time for that. Don't talk to me right now. I'm busy. There's a difference between I'm in flow and I'm trying to write this thing and I can't deal with you today. Like these are not the same thing. So I start when I'm under stress, I start hoarding my time. When I'm under stress outside, I start hoarding my snacks. I'm like, oh, we can't eat this right now. We might need it later, even though I have like so many snacks. Or the clothing, like I shouldn't put this, I'm cold, but I can't put this on right now because I might be more cold later. This makes no sense. Don't do that. Okay. I know that I do that because I've done it. Right. And saw the repercussions of that. And now I can bring that inside and understand how I'm reacting and how my nervous system reacts and keep it in balance, hopefully. I mean, none of this, like we talk a big talk here, y'all, but this is not, nobody's perfect. We're figuring this out every single day. These are the things I've learned. And if I implemented them every single day, I'd be really good at this, but I don't.
Yeah. But it's just about learning. It's just about knowing yourself more. And that's all of our goals as caregiver. Like I have to know what my own triggers are and where my weak spots are and what, like you said, you saw Luke when, you should have noticed that TBI, that was an issue, but I just need to know, hey, when I'm really snippy or I'm like wait, I'm tired. Like, wait, I need to step out and take care of myself for 20 minutes or do the outside walk or do something like that. So that's about knowing ourselves.
Yeah. Well, and we talk about stuff, right? And this is one of the things we talk about in that film, because I come from a family that does not talk about stuff, period, end of story. Doesn't know how, hasn't learned, isn't going to learn.
Yeah.
Okay. However, we work hard in my house here to talk about stuff. I literally say to my kids pretty often, well, we talk about stuff. And this is an example of that. And so that's big things and that's little things. And so that means when mom is, me, when I'm getting a little angry, my 14-year-old has the ability to say, hey, mom, do you need a snack? He's not being rude or, disrespectful. He's helping me. And yes, actually, I do need a snack. Thank you. Or when I say to him, you know what? I'm hungry. I need a snack. He can be like, okay, that's where we are now. Like,
cross the line.
Who among us? Yeah. Who among us has not been hangry?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So he knows that my kids know, like, and oh, by the way, they know for them too. When I say, okay, I can see that you're really upset right now. Can we take care of this after you eat something? Like they don't get angry. Like it's really easy to have someone say that and just get more angry. Like, what do you mean I'm hungry? Of course I am. Stop being annoying. Okay. They have the presence now because we've worked on it together to say, yes, I know I will feel better after I eat something. And yes, we can pause to take care of this. And that's true in every single thing that we deal with, right? There are lots and lots of examples of things like that we can then talk about because we make the practice of talking about them and work on it every day.
Like Amy took us to church today, Jay.
I know we go to church a lot when we get these guests on. I feel like I've had therapy. Like actually when we're done, Amy, I'm going to go outside and get my sunshine because like what you say,
I like it.
Yeah. Like what you've said is that I hoard my time sometimes. I feel like I need to stay in and get stuff done. And I don't go outside. I feel like I'm going to keep you updated. Like, Amy, I went outside today. Amy, I'm on day 10. And when I get to day 2000, I'm coming to Alaska. I'm like, here I am. Amy, I'm on day 2000.
It's like an accountability partner.
Do it.
Oh my God, I'm going to spend 2001 with you. That's nice. All right. So I think that's actually fantastic. But, it's now, Jay,
I'm ready.
We're at that place. We got sister questions. And we're
ready.
A little late into sister questions. So
I'll hurry.
Do your sister question.
Okay.
Mine is always the best.
Oh, whatever. Okay, Amy. So caregiving, I know that you're in the long haul because Luke's is not something that's just going to go away. That, regardless of lifespan or anything, because we always say mortality is at 100%.
That's right.
He could live to be 80. So you guys are in this and you're in it for the long haul. You care for Luke, but you all are married. How does Luke care for you? Like, what does it do for your, what is your marriage?
Yeah, he understands that I am a high energy person and understands how to give me the space and care that I need. Sometimes often that look, not to make it sound like I eat all the time, but often that looks like making me food, he's like really good cook.
Food is love.
And so I say to him, like, even last night I was like, so do you think you could cook me that chicken, please? And he does such a better job cooking chicken than I do. I mean, it is like, he's the chicken king. Okay. It goes the whole distance. Yeah. So it looks like giving me space and then taking care of me. And a lot of that is me having to communicate what I need because he's not a mind reader. And I think the TBI sort of keeps him from guessing. I mean, it would be great if he was a mind reader because then things would just materialize, but that's not how it is. He also gives me space. So when I say I need to go on a run, he knows that we don't run with husbands. No. And I will sometimes invite him and then he's allowed into that space. But otherwise that is a space for me to have my moments. Sometimes my moments look like with a best friend where we're talking about things. She also does not run with husbands, by the way. She's not a caregiver. This is a rule. And so
like it.
Yeah. So he gives me that space. Yeah. And he takes care of me that way.
I love that.
I like it.
I like that because the thing is that it sounds, you guys care for each other and Jason and I care for each other. Lime, shrimp, tacos. And I don't make a single meal. And even though Jason has no taste, everything tastes really bad. Somehow he still is able to cook and everything tastes spectacular. And it is the insult to him. Yet I know that I don't feel bad about eating in front of him, because even though it tastes awful, it brings him joy when I sit there and I just gush and gush and gush and gush, and he takes care of me, because I need to be taken care of just as much as I want to take care of him. Some days I don't want to take care of him. Some days I want to cut him. Right. And and that's okay. But that's, I call that marriage. Yeah. And so, all right. So here's my question. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. I feel like I know it, but I don't. What is your favorite guilty pleasure? The thing that you do only for you?
I have this cup of coffee in my hand. Yes. So this particular cup of coffee has the tiniest little bit of eggnog flavored creamer, which I don't usually allow until after Thanksgiving, but they had it at the grocery store and I broke early. Okay. Because I love eggnog. But I love coffee. And I've never laughed so hard watching something as the moment in this documentary where Richard so beautifully captured my relationship with my coffee maker. And it felt to me like minutes long. I'm sure it's not, where he shows me making coffee and then cuddling my coffee and then taking this long, luxurious sip of my coffee. I just really like it. I drink extremely weak, typically black coffee in very high volumes, but it is like, guys, it is like a sacred, I don't know if this is early morning Amy talking, it's like a sacred little time for me every time, like holding a mug that's the perfect size for my hands, how warm it feels. In Alaska, that's important. I'm cold, I'm wearing like a long sleeve shirt and a puffy vest right now in a closet. Okay. When you're really cold, if you hold your coffee to your sternum, it like warms up your whole body. It's delightful. Coffee next to campfire. Guys, coffee with friends in a coffee shop. Yes. It's a portal almost. It's not about the caffeine, because again, I need that too, but I'm drinking extremely weak coffee. Okay. Sometimes I put it on a number 1 setting, 1 of 8, and then water it down. Okay. It's about the warmth and the almost ceremony, if you will, of having this moment where I'm doing something that I just really enjoy, and just have that moment for me where I'm like, I am drinking this coffee. Yes.
The eggnog creamer idea, I do like that. So that's only a seasonal thing. So I'll toss that in mine as well.
Ooh, it's good.
I don't know. You'll appreciate this. I'm sorry for all the guys. I don't know if I'm about to start, but I'm going to tell you, I feel very tearful about you talking about your coffee, because it's like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, it's the warmth, it's the regulating that it does for you. It is what it symbolizes to you. It is your space and it's sacred to you. Mm-hmm. It makes me think of our friend Candace Straw, and you need to friend her on Facebook or LinkedIn, but Facebook actually, because Candace puts a meme out about her love of coffee.
It's
every
amazing.
Day. And so I'm gonna send it to you, because Candace, we love you. She's in Chicago and she has this unbelievable love of coffee. And the memes are so funny. It will align with you and it will just make you'll be like, she is my person. She is my person. So we love you, Candace, too. Amy, thank you so much. Like, I really want you to be your bestie. Know that Virginia's for lovers and you're always welcome in Virginia.
Thank you, ma'am.
And JJ has a house in the Keys, so you should visit there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at some point, I'm coming to visit in Alaska because I want to hang out and I like, the outside out idea. And I just think you're great. I think you're a great human being and I love you.
Thank you for sharing.
I love your story and we love that.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's so much fun to get to talk about this with people who know. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Guys, until we confess again, thanks so much. Well, friends, that's a wrap on this week's confession. Again, thank you so much for listening. But before you go, please take a moment to leave us a review and tell your friends about the Confessions podcast. Don't forget to visit our website to sign up for our newsletter. You'll also find a video recording of all of our episodes on the Confessions website and our YouTube channel. Don't worry, all the details are included in the show notes below. We'll see you next Tuesday when we come together to confess again. Till then, take care of you. Okay, let's talk disclaimers. You may be surprised to find out, but we are not medical professionals and are not providing any medical advice. If you have any medical questions, we recommend that you talk with a medical professional of your choice. As always, my sisters and I at Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver have taken care in selecting the speakers, but the opinions of our speakers are theirs alone.
The views and opinions stated in this podcast are solely those of the contributors and not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted, and no part can be reproduced without the express written consent of the Sisterhood of Care, LLC. Thank you for listening to the Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver podcast.